I am here with the Cruz family, and I am so excited for you to hear their story about how God has worked His glory into their story, the Cruz family.
Through the years, I think I knew I would marry later in life.
Okay.
But there was a point, it was when my youngest sister, younger by 8 years,
Okay.
she got married in the Philippines. And I went home on that trip for that wedding.
Right.
And that's when it really hit me that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm still spending Christmases with just my parents.
Yeah.
We still don't have my own family.
Right.
And I'm still doing the same thing over and over. And here's my baby sister getting married. And I think that's when the desire to get married intensified.
Right. So you always had the desire, but
I
it
always had the
intensified.
desire. I knew I would
with your
marry
baby
later,
sister.
but
Gotcha.
that point in my life, I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I think the clock is really ticking now. Because I had several relationships at that point. I've had a handful of romantic relationships that didn't quite work out, and the last one before the wedding of my sister,
Right.
like I thought that was it, but it just didn't quite work. And then I had to go back, and then I had to face the reality of, oh wow, this is LA. It's so hard to meet people. I'm in my mid-30s. Really, the life I had was my job and then ministry. And most of the people at church were women, right?
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of men,
Yeah.
eligible bachelors, and
Yeah.
none that really, captured my heart or my
Right.
attention. And so
Yeah.
there was a point where I actually lived in a holding pattern where
Yeah.
I felt like, oh, I can't really do things until I meet my husband. Yeah, like there was a moment where I would just watch same day edits of wedding videos and just cry my gut out, thinking,
jeez.
God, will you actually meet this dream in my heart? Is
Yeah.
this something that's still on your heart to fulfill? And I would just cry, and I'd be like, sometimes I would have to call friends to pray for me, because it wasn't really depression, but it was like anxiety of
Yeah.
the future. Is
Yeah.
God going to be
Yeah.
faithful in this area of my life?
Mhm.
And even just trying to meet that need
Yeah.
through maybe online dating, which I've tried but didn't really work out for me, or just meeting, going on dates. The tension of contending for the hope that I was holding on to versus the reality of what was happening. Like one prayer and fasting where I felt like God was saying, start really praying for your husband, because your husband is not in this city. And just start declaring that he will come here however way that is.
And so you were doing prayer and fasting beginning of 2016. Then
Yes.
that comes in, and of course you knew each other for a long time before, but
We kept in touch, and every time I'd go to the Philippines, he would meet up.
Yeah.
We'd hang out.
You know
No, so we saw each other in April in the Philippines, right, at your house, because we had a high school reunion, and then he came here in May, and
I was here like for a month,
yeah.
and towards the end of my vacation, there was like, oh, there's something here that
Yeah.
I don't have this like American dream to like stay here.
to stay in
Yeah.
the States,
But when
Right.
I met her, when I
saw her again.
saw her again,
Yeah.
it was like, oh, there's something
I'm willing to
here.
rearrange my plans.
There's a possibility.
There's a big possibility.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we kept in touch.
I was actually very hesitant because I'm like, I don't want a long distance relationship.
You told me this.
And
You told
I
Amy
know
this.
that he doesn't
Yeah.
want to live here.
Yeah.
So I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know how this is going to work out.
No, you engaged. When did you pop the question?
That was 2018.
Okay.
September. We got married on
Oh my gosh.
2019.
In
That's a-
January.
So
January.
2016, you guys are feeling stuff. It took a full 2 years
Yes.
and more.
And he had to go back and forth.
It was
Oh my
expensive
God.
to date her.
The airfare is
Yeah.
not cheap.
And
I know.
I have to enjoy,
I mean,
like,
that's not exactly just getting in your car and driving 20 minutes.
14-hour flight.
I got you.
Back and forth.
Yeah, and then you got to look good after that flight when you show up.
This was at my, actually my 40th birthday.
Is it
There was a
40th
big
party?
party.
Oh my God.
And then everybody was, giving messages of affirmation.
Oh,
and
my
then
God.
he stood, and then next thing you know, I see him kneeling, and then balloons are coming out. Will you marry me?
Oh, wow.
In front of my
We
parents.
got married January of 2019
So that was pretty fast
It
from
was a
engagement.
quick wedding,
And
yes.
that was in the
in
Philippines?
the Philippines.
Right, and then you, of course, came back here. And how would you say life has been for the last 2 years? Because we're talking, going on 3 years now.
We just celebrated our 3rd year this
Yay!
week.
Happy anniversary.
God has really been faithful, and I know like all
Yeah.
those years that I've been praying, He's definitely answered. And now we get this little one that is just such a
Oh my
bundle of joy.
gosh.
Because even that's a miracle story of how the
Yes.
doctors kept saying, "Oh,
Don't
you're
do
too
it."
old."
Yeah.
Hebrews 10:23 was one of my life verses. Like, let us hold on unswervingly to the faith that we profess, because He
Right.
has promised is faithful.
Right.
And I just had to hold on to that. And I think part of getting encouraged in the midst of the discouragement and the frustration of the long time waiting and contending and
Yeah.
starting to lose hope
Yeah.
is really finding community.
Mhm.
Having peers that would speak life to me, but also having mentors like
Yeah.
Pastor Amy and
Yeah.
Laura. Like
Yeah.
they would speak life to me whenever I would get discouraged and be like, "Hey, remember God said this. Like, don't lose hope."
Yeah.
Just stay faithful. When I was waiting, I was serving in the church. I was in the music ministry.
Right.
I was just really being faithful to the Lord, and
Yeah.
and He gave me this.
Yeah. So you guys didn't stop and put your whole lives on
I mean,
hold.
there were moments that I did, but then I had to wake up from that and be
Right.
like, wait a minute, I can't put my life on hold just because I
Yeah.
don't have a spouse.
Yeah.
And I had to live my life to the fullest, knowing that He's faithful regardless of whatever season I'm in.
Yeah.
God is never late.
Right.
He's not early. He's
Right.
always on time.